Knowing the difference was something that Ripa had always taken great pride in. A woman's life lessons had taught her to deal with the fast-paced, laser-like attention needed for live television and the gradual eroding of private life in the limelight. Something more primal than either instinct or Mark's age resurfaced within her on the day he was rushed to the hospital, and her world was turned upside down. It all began with that terrifying phone call that everyone is hoping is an exaggeration. For a split second, she was going over a scene in her head. Suddenly, a terrifying panic ensued as she sped down the highway. The delivery truck Mark was riding in slipped on a muddy section of road on the way back from a charity event. It was the kind of collision that leaves lasting mental impressions. A rapid burst of red lights, followed by the screech of metal, and then complete silence. Even as the ambulance door was closing, Mark's phone was still on and showed his last message. Behind schedule by 10 minutes. Kelly's entire universe seemed to crumble. Despite the accident, he survived. The surgeries were successful, but his win was precarious. His ribs and spine were pierced by fractures that extended like a broken sentence. A brain scan that indicated days of monitoring before doctors could give any prognosis other than guarded. And a lung that fought but finally succumbed to a prolonged infection. Like a performer whose job it is to hold a long pause, Mark was in the intensive care unit like a man whose voice is now a succession of monitors and continuous beeps. Sitting near his bed, Kelly marked time in rhythmic mechanical sighs by counting the breaths the machine took for him. Schedules and visits were second nature to the family. Distressed but resolute, the kids faithfully switched shifts at the hospital. Friends provided practical and individual assistance. Things like food, laundry, or even just a phone operator to let a parent call in to a meeting could be helpful. Kelly, who is skilled at managing many responsibilities, managed the logistics with deftness. The strangest part, which was less shocking after she admitted it, was how the hospital had become their new center of gravity, revolving their lives around it. Without Mark, the house lost its familiar atmosphere. She had lost the self-assurance that had previously allowed her to rule the studio. Regardless of the circumstances, she was always able to compartmentalize her life. On one hand, we had the vivacious Kelly, who tossed jokes around the air like confetti. Then there was Kelly, the private one, who was lightly arguing with Mark about the best way to store container lids and planning birthday surprises. Those distinctions became more hazy over Mark's first few weeks in the hospital. Similar to how she mastered the morning show, she became familiar with the names of the intensive care unit staff. Like her quards, the names of surgeons were etched into her memory. She maintained her competency in both areas, for the simple reason that the show's regularity was essential to the audience's expectations. And yet, the agony would return every morning just before the studio lights illuminated her face. An abrupt, new sadness that turned everything upside down. She would mentally run through her lines, just to let them slip away. Becoming a wife who could sit beside a sick bed was her true desire, not to be a TV personality. Eventually, Mark would snap out of his hypnotic daze and give her an equally bewildered face. Her world had come to a standstill, and he had no idea how he had gotten there. Similarly, she had no idea how to survive in a world that continued to move. Executives at the network saw it coming. Ratings were a human-operated machine, and producers initially made gentle attempts to accommodate her. First, they proposed a more relaxed timetable, and then they proposed remote segments. Up to a degree, their empathy was genuine. They were also human beings. Advertisers wanted them to be dependable, and they were also bound to a broadcast schedule. A cheery segment shot on Kelly's phone from a hospital sofa was her effort at the remote appearances. An interview that had already been recorded, with the intention of making the audience feel better through her laughing. Everything from her public persona, loyal to her family and viewers, to her financial stability, her ability to fulfill her charitable and contractual obligations was at jeopardy when her representative sent out reminders about her brand commitments and charity work. A subtle, unchanging reality always crept in whenever she chose to disregard criticism or attempt humor. Came into being. Her unwavering presence made each and every one of her broadcasts more engaging. However, is it possible for her to exist in two realms at the same time? Like an obstinate pain, the question persisted. A calm, peaceful delight washed over everyone when Mark was finally able to be transferred from the intensive care unit to a private recovery room. The ring had a more pleasant outlook, a bed free of the harsh antiseptic odor. However, Kelly discovered that stability is just another form of torment. The intensive care unit had been a terrifying place where minutes were counted against machine readings. A sluggish, muddy ditch was the recovery wing. It was at this point that the adrenaline drained away, leaving just the dreadful length of the road ahead and the aching bones of tiredness. Despite being physically present, Mark appeared to be a filtered version of himself, impacted by the tremendous debasement caused by his betraying body and the pain medication he was taking. Once able to glide through life with athletic ease, the man now found it difficult to maintain his balance. Even while it was filled with laughter, his voice was often tight with annoyance or low with agony he attempted to conceal from her. Twice daily, energetic and positive physical therapists came to his house to help him rebuild mobility and muscle memory through limb movement exercises. As Kelly stood in the corner, her phone quietly buzzed with messages from producers and her agency, while Mark's face twisted as he attempted to raise his leg an inch off the mattress. It felt like I was failing miserably with every little groan. Not only was she not being there in the two locations where she was legally and emotionally bound to be, but she was also not fixing him or protecting him. A hideous parody of her life emerged from the out-of-the-way parts. To disguise her lack of sleep, she would locate a well-lit area of the hospital lounge, put concealer under her eyes, and look directly into the camera. Mark was trying to master the usage of a walker just 2 doors down, while she was busy talking about the latest trends in celebrity style or cuisine. She got vertigo because the disconnect was so deep. Outside Mark's room, she paced the corridor one afternoon while on a conference call with the network. Ideas for her comeback were being considered. "Kelly, your viewers are missing you. The usual is required of them." The producer's voice was smooth with trained empathy as he spoke. "A huge welcome back week is in the works. Perhaps we could even get Mark to wave from the comfort of his bed. Display his fighting skills to everyone." There was a tangible thud when the proposal hit. A small nod as though he were an object in her story about tenacious daytime TV. The tragedy they went through was treated like a plot point, with the November sweeps being the target. She remarked, her voice nearly silent, that he is not a section. "I don't think so, Kelly. Whatever you're trying to say, I understand." From inside Mark's room, she could make out the steady, authoritative voice of a nurse. "Mark, I'll take 3, 1, and 2. Kelly ended the call. Farewell was not uttered by her. As Mark struggled to stand, his face flushed and bedraggled, she entered the room, her hands clenched tightly onto the parallel bars. The facade of her public persona cracked as he gazed at her with pride and desperation in his eyes. She hadn't just wobbled the plates for decades. Then they crashed to the ground. Seated at the little desk adjacent to the window, she extracted her laptop and started to tap away. She chose not to contact her agent. She failed to seek advice from the public relations staff of the network. She addressed her readers by name in her essay. To those who, for 20 years, had welcomed her into their houses. She uploaded it 1 hour afterward. On her personal Instagram, over a plain gray backdrop, was a plain and adorned remark. "Hi there, everyone. Many of you are aware that my husband Mark was involved in a catastrophic accident. Knowing how important consistency is to everyone here, I've done my best to be strong and maintain our show's routine. However, I am quite unable to do that. I'm not currently hosting. As a wife, I am in a hospital, watching as the guy I love struggles to get his life back, and I must remain there. I am stepping away from the show indefinitely to devote myself fully to my family. Your compassion, your prayers, and the space you've given us to recover are greatly appreciated. Whenever we meet, I shall greet you." There was a tremendous and immediate response. A gladiator arena that is the internet, overwhelmed by an unexpected outpouring of encouragement. The frankness of the comment had cut through the background chatter. "Hey, good day, everyone. I am delighted that you have made it to my channel. My best wishes to each and every one of you today. Please hit the subscribe button before we start. I never wear my bras to a gym since they never receive a real workout. I'm not asking too many of them, if that makes sense. Dear Kelly, Ripa doesn't care if you find it annoying that she talks about her bra size and bust on morning TV. I am deeply grateful." The star of Live with Kelly and Mark once again brought up one of her favorite topics on Wednesday's talk show, effortlessly changing the subject from her childhood pal to bras. "Undergarments for all, please. Bras are older than you think," Ripa told the studio audience. "I don't mean simply my bra. I mean bras in general," she elaborated. Since hers don't receive much exercise, she made the joke that they're thousands of years old. "I am not inquiring about them frequently. By now, You should have a good idea of what I'm getting at. To put it simply, I use my bra as a microphone stand. Since there isn't anything else there, I wear a bra for support. I couldn't care less if you're hurt, Ripa shouted as she turned to address the audience. Silence it. I ask very little, though, because that's why I wear a bra, simply to put a microphone on. Mark Consuelos, Ripa's husband and co-host on Live, laughed and buried his face in his hands as his wife talked about her breast size. As the camera panned to the studio audience, it caught sight of one individual dropping his head in amusement at Ripa's remarks. As an aside, Consuelos mentioned that she used to prefer the ones with the front snaps. In response, Ripa gushed to the audience about how talented he was. There was a round of applause and cheers from the crowd. It astounded me much. Then I thought, wow, this guy knows his way around a bra. After that, Consuelos made a joke about how her bras are more akin to tank tops. Prior to delving into a historical overview of bras, Ripa brought up the fact that ancient Greeks had undergarments. Breast sacks from the Middle Ages, close to Austria, was another example she gave. During their July live broadcast, Consuelos informed Ripa that she needed a toddler-sized fitness gear to support herself while exercising, continuing a long-running joke between the two regarding her large chest. Subsequently, his wife sought assistance from the spectators over the dig. I am correct, my listeners. Ripa stated that there would be witnesses present. Kelly and Mark's Live airs via syndicated television every weekday. For local showtimes, check the listings. Dear Kelly, on the most recent edition of Live with Kelly and Mark, Ripa made it quite apparent. The responsibility for your disapproval of her talking about bras on morning TV lies with you. She isn't worried about it at all. What started off as a passing joke became a full-blown comedy routine thanks to Ripa's trademark wit, quick wit, and wink to the camera. The entire studio couldn't help but chuckle. Her ability to elevate the banal to the level of must-see television was once again demonstrated when her husband Mark Consuelos became visibly embarrassed and covered his face. This is how Kelly's situation works. She has never been one to rely on flowery language or beautiful half-lines to carry an audience. Her comedic timing is characterized by candor, awareness of her own shortcomings, and I know, but hear me out moments. Furthermore, she proceeded with complete assurance as she began a biography of bras rig. I am confident enough to talk about bras, chest size, and microphone positioning. The thing is, I will not bend over backwards to accommodate you if it annoys you. The result was amusing and irreverent, just the kind of celebrity moment that morning TV loves.